what's up? I'm Amin Dhillon, and welcome to my podcast. I'm sitting down with the movers and shakers and the stars to chat about life, love, business, and being a total boss. It's raw, it's candid, it's the stories behind the headlines. This is In Conversation.
Making his way to the ring from the continent of Asia, Tiger Ali Singh.
Tiger Jeet Singh and the Iron Sheik making their way to the ring.
Good to have you. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
And of course, we have known each other for a very, very long time. Not
Yes.
as long as I would have liked because obviously I wasn't around. But ever since I've met you and your lovely family,
Yes.
I have really got to know just the amazing work that you do. And I was just telling you before we started this, there needs to be a movie on your story, on your dad's story. So can we maybe say something? Is something in the works? Something?
Well, we're offered several times for book, life story, and for a movie, but nothing concrete, nothing definite to report. And just to get to your first point, I'm here because of our friendship. I don't normally do these things. I was actually talking with my staff on the way over. I go, it's because of Amin and the friendship that we have. Because I got nothing to pitch, I got nothing to sell, right? So we're here because of our friendship.
Oh, thank you. And I really appreciate that. And I really wanted you to be a guest on the show because I have known your story. I've met you. And I think, first of all, I can't even imagine overcoming everything that you and your family have. But then to see the work that you continue to do and the motivation, the drive, like I'm very proud to say that I'm friends with you. So that's why I'm so glad to have you here. Of course, if everyone's like, okay, doesn't really know, Tiger Jeet Singh, your dad, what was it like growing up with him? Did you have a moment where you realized, wait a minute, my dad isn't like regular dads?
We had a very normal upbringing.
Yeah.
I think credit to him. And when he was the man here in Toronto Maple Leaf Gardens, and doing the rounds here in Cleveland and Cincinnati and Buffalo, we weren't born. So he made a really big name for himself over here. And then when we started coming into the fold, he became a big star overseas. And he spent majority of the time was in Japan, throughout Asia, and here periodically he would main event on Toronto Maple Leaf Gardens. But we didn't know anything. We didn't know anything at all. He was the normal, loving dad. When he was at home, he did spend many a months away, like even up to 6 months away. So, but when he was back, we were just like a regular family, you know, picnicking and just going to amusement parks. And so he was awesome. That's my memories of him. He was just a regular, loving dad.
That's good. So when was that moment when you realized, wait a minute, my dad is this huge superstar?
I think when I get into my teenage years, I was a big follower then, obviously, of the Japanese wrestling. I didn't really follow the WWF. Is because, you know, my dad was wrestling there. So all the magazines, even though I didn't read Japanese or I would watch the videos, I didn't understand a word of Japanese. But I was really mesmerized by of Japanese wrestling being more of a sport, more of an art form, same like sumo wrestling, where over here they would kind of say, oh, look at these two behemoths. You know, but that's not the way the Japanese culture followed it. it was more of an art form. They seen all the prior preparation that went into it, the discipline, the dieting. So it was like actually getting set up to watch the gladiators. And my dad was, how they refer to him, the King of Kings. He's to this date, the most popular, the most revered foreign wrestler to have ever set foot on Japanese soil.
Yeah.
And so I started watching it. I started recording it. I made my own dubbings and videos, kept a chronology of all his videos. Even to this day, you know, it's, I don't know how many hundreds of videotapes I have. Back then it was beta.
Yeah.
And
how old are you around this time when you're
I was around maybe 13, 14.
Yeah.
So, but besides that, we didn't talk shop. Like he never would come and say, you know what, I did this or that, or, you know, there were so many thousands of people are watching me. We never really talked shop. So I was just watching it. And then when I guess I got my first kind of dosage that I can remember, it wasn't like my first match, but the one I can remember was when I visited Japan my very first time. I think it was 18 or 19. And I watched him wrestle in a sold out Yokohama stadium, 60,000 people. And it was the main event, and the Japanese people started chanting "Sing, sing, sing," and I just had goosebumps. I was that's it. I was bitten.
Yeah.
I was bitten. I was like, God, this is unbelievable. Like all these people, and nobody has a clue. Like we never had a clue, and you know, and that's when I right then and there. I made the decision. I said, this man's legacy has to be continued on. I never had any love. I had never had any inclination to become a pro wrestler up until that time. I was in like, you know, like traditional sports here like basketball or soccer. But I just saw this man and I said, this guy's legacy has to be continued on for future generations.
So when you decided to get into wrestling, though, was it because you were like, I need to continue his legacy, or was it because you're like, I love this, I want to be just like him? Or is it a little bit of both, where you're
Not
like, I
the
want to
latter.
wrestle, but I also want to...
Not the latter part.
No?
It was definitely the first part.
Oh, okay.
I was all in just to preserve this man's legacy.
Because it's a
was
very
it.
intimidating
Yeah.
sport. Like, you look at it,
Yeah,
and
it
these
is.
guys, and like pinning each other and doing all
Yeah.
this stuff, and
Yeah.
you were like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, no, it was like once again, I was captivated by the Japanese. I was always an athlete. I have two younger brothers that were always in athletics. So it was just another sport to learn, right? You need a strong background in athletics, which we had. I had the DNA, I had the pedigree, and now it was just kind of retooling it. And so we set our eyes out in Japan, and I stayed there for several months under the tutelage of the great Antonio Inoki, and the shrine, it's referred to as a shrine now, is the New Japan Pro Wrestling Dojo. And then they sent me out to Bangkok to learn some Muay Thai, a little bit of kickboxing. They call it shoot wrestling because they always want you to be prepared that if something goes against the understanding, that you can take care of yourself in the ring, right? A lot of people kind of love to take that kind of advantage over young and aspiring, and especially the son of someone so great. They love to make their points. Hey, I just whooped the ass of the great Tiger Jeet Singh.
Yeah.
So they really, really put more time and effort to prepare me for those, and it came in handy because there were several matches I remember when I started where people tried to take advantage of me, and that's when you just had to, you know, less entertainment and just go and beat the crap out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I read somewhere that you actually were being scouted by colleges in the States for basketball. So I was
Yes.
like, wow, like your life could have gone such a different way. So was it ever an option?
Well, that's a great question, and kudos to you for doing your homework.
Because even at that time, we didn't have many South Asian basketball players.
No,
I can't think of
we didn't
anyone.
have
So I'm
any.
like, you would have been making history.
Well, we didn't have many basketball players, right?
Yeah.
It was Canadian basketball, and we never had the Raptors. We never had all of these kind of, you know, programs and clubs and support system that we have now. So you had to really love it, and you had to have really excelled to have been seen. And if you were recognized, then you would make after your school basketball, then you would be kind of drafted to your regional team. And then if you were really good on regional, then you were drafted to your provincial team, which I was. And then from there, you would have people to say, hey, come on out to the Olympic pre-trials and stuff. So, which I was. And I was like 16 at the time. So at the Olympics, that was like all men, you know, you with the guys that are 25 to 30. And so I was just, 16. But they just wanted you to kind of, get into it, get a little, familiar with what the program was all about. But I was young. I didn't have a lot of experience. I definitely didn't have any family in that kind of business. And I kind of grew out of it later in my grade 12 or whatever, because there wasn't the support to kind of give you the proper guidance. And then this thing, that I kind of bumped into several injuries during my final year. So instead of signing any sort of contracts, they kind of put me down to the D League, said, hey, we'll see you at a junior college or whatever. But at the same time, this window opened up, and my dad kind of, picked me up and said, come to Japan with me. It's instead of, weeping away in your sorrows or self-pity that, woe is me. He said, come on up, let's go check out Japan. It'll be a nice trip for you. Never with the inkling of, okay, you know what, I'm going to be seen over there and people want to start training me. So I always believe in all the cultures. They have the same sort of situation, saying that, when one door closes, another will open. They'll say, God, whichever what your belief is, I am a true believer that, in karma and spirituality, that's what given me my strength going through what I had to go through. And for every occurrence or any sort of situation that happens, there is a reason for it to happen. I was laughing with my mom this morning. She goes, oh, you got some good news or bad news? I said, it's just news. But we as humanity, we label it. So if you choose to label it as bad news, then you draw in the negative energy. If you choose to label it, hey, this is great news, then there's the positive energy.
Interesting. Right? So was your dad always on board with the idea of you following his footsteps?
I think my dad was. He had a very limited education when he came to this country. Yeah. High school, I believe. I'm not even sure if he finished high school. And it was all about, hey, let me create a living, right? I got to provide for my family. So he immediately thought, oh my God, look at this. This is like the golden ticket, New Japan Pro Wrestling, which was 10 times bigger than the WWF. And all the American guys want to go there. He said, listen, they want to teach him and train him. They want to spend all the money. How many opportunities do you get at this? And so he was all for it. My mom was more like, he's an honor student in high school. He should aspire now to go and get an education, higher learning, post-secondary education, go in some universities and whatever. But they kind of left the decision on to me. And I said, no, I'd like to pursue this craft. So there you have it.
Well, then you, of course, went through all of the hard work and training. And then the big moment where you got the biggest announcement ever when they signed you at what we call back then the Sky Dome in '97. Tell me about that moment where they rolled out the red carpet and everyone was there to watch this announcement.
Well, do you want the real story or do you want the story that people just see?
Oh, please, the real story. Okay. It's always about the real story.
Remember, in life, if anyone's after you, there's a motive, right?
Okay.
So either you have something that they want. In my particular case, it was more deeper than superficial. Oh my God, South Asian wrestler, he's big, he's bad. We're going to do great business. It had nothing to do with that. It was actually an ultimatum given by Rupert Murdoch, who was the owner of Star and Sky Sports, the owner of Fox Television. And at that time, we didn't have as many television networks or even satellites. It was Rupert Murdoch, Star Sports in Asia, Sky Sports in Europe. And his biggest viewership was India. So he was making lots of money out of India. And at that time, if you recall, there was the Monday Night Wars between WCW and WWF. WCW was owned by Ted Turner. So he had the big money and he was drawing up, recruiting all of the Hulk Hogan's, the Macho Man's, with then was the first time it was implemented guaranteed contracts. There was no contracts. But then all of a sudden it became like major league sports, like basketball and baseball. So now there was guaranteed wrestling. Before that, it was you get paid as you perform, no security. So now people had security. So Vince's talent pool was dwindling, but he's great. He's a genius in trying to create. And so he was working really hard in creating some young, aspiring talent. He gave mid-card guys, lower-card guys like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, when Hulk Hogan and them were around, he elevated them now to main event status. And but I guess the Achilles was television, right? Television makes or breaks you. You can be an unbelievable independent sort of promotion and revel in kind of the minor leagues if you don't have television. But if you have a television provider, now you're known throughout the region or throughout the country, or in Vince's case, throughout the world. So at that time, Rupert Murdoch basically gave an ultimatum. Vince McMahon's contract was up in '96 and said, I need you, in order for me to renew your contract and not do it with New Japan Pro Wrestling or Ted Turner, I need you to deliver me, I guess, an Asian Hulk Hogan, which would be transcending wrestling and also get into celebrity, kind of a neutral face that would appeal to the Middle Eastern community, the Indian community, the Pacific Rim countries. So he goes, that's my ultimatum. So Vince immediately called Bret Hart, who was in Calgary, and said, listen, we're kind of up the creek. This is a do or die situation for us. We're losing our talent, but if we lose our TV, we're gonna like fold up our tents. The public doesn't know this. So he said, who can we get as our celebrity? He goes, there's only one guy. He goes, who's that? He goes, Tiger Jeet Singh. He goes, this guy is revered. He goes, even the Emperor of Japan has presented this man an island as a gift. So he goes, of course, everyone knows Tiger. He goes, but would he be interested in this circus of a life? He goes, hell no. No, he's an ambassador, he's revered and this and that. But his son started wrestling, and he's in New Japan Pro Wrestling, he's being trained, he's being groomed. So he goes, Bret, we got to get this Tiger Jr. guy. So never seen my performance. Remember, it wasn't about my wrestling prowess or anything. He just need to deliver this sort of ultimatum that Rupert Murdoch had given. So the calls started coming, and Ted Turner's people called, all unsolicited. New Japan Pro Wrestling owner at the time, Antonio Inoki, the legend, he flew over unannounced and basically in Toronto said, Tiger, I'd love to meet with you. So he came over, basically spilled the beans, explained everything, what it was. So Turner's guys came in, just here's the contract, whatever you want. So everyone was talking. And I was away at the time. I was in Florida. I was actually on my honeymoon. And so Vince called my dad and said, this is what we need. This is what we got to do. And can we meet with your son? So my dad then kind of played like the middleman. And he called me in Florida. And he goes, when are you coming back, you know? I said, Dad, I just got here. And he goes, well, Vince McMahon and WWF. And I said, Dad, why don't you just handle it? So it just shows you not only how naive I was, but not an avid follower of the WWF. I was, you know, if you would have told me Antonio Inoki wants to see me, I would have said, let's make it happen, right? So long story short, it took 2 weeks of Vince going back and forth with my dad. Said, I'm in Florida too. I can fly over to meet your son. Ultimately, what happened was we were arriving a certain day. He said, my private jet will be waiting the next morning. Love to fly you and your son out to New York, Stamford, Connecticut. So that's what happened. My dad and I were flown over. They gave us all like the bells and whistles and, you know, the whole show. And
They're wooing you.
They're wooing you, right? But I was, once again, young, naive, clueless to the happenings of the world, especially at that very sophisticated level. And we're sitting there, and then we finally have a meeting with Vince in the boardroom, and it was just Vince, myself, at the other end, my dad, and a couple of his agents. And he gave me a blank check. I remember it like it was yesterday. And he started referring to me as his son. He said, son, he goes, blank check. I want to sign you for life. And but legally I can't. So I like to do it for 10 years. Blank check. It's a guaranteed contract. That means basically, even if you don't wrestle, you're gonna earn this. It'll be a weekly check coming to your house, and the more you work, you'll make more.
Sounds amazing.
Right? So I basically looked at him. I said, "Thank you so much for the offer, but the final decision will be my dad." So now thinking in hindsight, right? If someone were to say that to me, I would be like, "What the hell's wrong with this kid?"
Yeah.
But that was my upbringing, right? That was my pedigree, which he's not aware of. So I said, the decision's to my dad, if I'm going to come and work for you or not. But I only have one request, humble request. And he goes, well, what's that? I said, I would really like it for you to appoint my father, a very prestige position within the organization. Not a wrestler, but a very high-level executive. And he goes, done. Right, at that time, he would have done anything. He goes, done. He goes, I'll appoint your dad as my first ever and only international ambassador. So that came with a guaranteed contract over 10 years as well, all expenses paid, everything. And then my dad said, okay. He goes, you write down the figure.
To you.
No, my dad started the negotiation with Vince. He goes, it's not us to tell you. You write down, this is your business. You write down the figure. And I'll either say yes or no.
Oh,
but
that's a good move.
But we're very simple people. I know some people might say, "Oh my God, that's
negotiation
so
101. Get them to tell you how much they're willing to give you."
Yeah, but that's not the way he meant it. He goes, "You're the professional. You tell us what my son is worth, and I'll either say yes or no. But I'm not into haggling, and I'm not going to say counter it." And he goes, "Okay." And he goes, "Also, I want you to deliver it, the proposal, to my house in Canada, where we'll have a nice dinner, and we'll give you a response." So in a couple of days, they flew over with his entourage, came to the house, and I remember my brother opened the door. He was like 17 at the time, the youngest brother, and Vince gave him 2 sealed envelopes for the contracts. So my brother took it and put it in the office. He goes, "Oh, aren't you going to show that to your dad?" He goes, "No, my dad doesn't do business over dinner." So once again, in hindsight, we were coming across, it's very naive, but he probably thought, what a play, these guys are
I know. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are making him sweat. I love
Unbelievable.
it.
I'm thinking about it right now and I'm laughing. But so my brother went and just pushed it off like it's like a box of Kleenex, put it in the office. And we had this fabulous dinner, and Vince is asking his henchman, no disrespect, his entourage, for an answer. And they would respond, my dad says he'll give you an answer tomorrow. So they left.
I want you to negotiate all my deals from now on, by the way. I'm already like, you're
my
making him wait now the next day.
It's my dad. My dad should negotiate with you. So they laughed, and anyways, then we looked at it, and my dad said, what do you think? I said, Dad, it's whatever you and Mom think. And they go, I think this is reasonable. You're starting your career. And the one thing I like is that he's a man of his word. He came all the way, and it shows how much he wants you. Meanwhile, New Japan and Turner are still talking, but this guy is right away.
He's got the check.
He's got the check.
Can I ask you, was the check like mind-blowing the amount, or you were saying it's reasonable? It
was a $2.5 million minimum guarantee.
And was that at the time like the biggest
That
amount, or?
Yeah, it was the biggest. I guess exchange was really in favor for us as well, so I was making like double.
Yeah.
Just sitting at home doing nothing.
So this isn't what the average new signing would ever get.
I don't know.
You were
not
setting the standard here.
Set the precedent, brand new, and then I think
Amazing.
they gave Dad $1 million minimum US, so but the exchange would be close to $2 million. So
they were taking care of you.
They were taking more than, but once again, it was the TV deal. Remember that.
Okay.
It wasn't just for a wrestler. And then I basically told him, I said, I know it's about the TV deal and all of that, right? So I don't want, he goes, nope. He goes, I'm honoring it. And I was very honest and straight. I wasn't shrewd. I wasn't brought up in the American wrestling. I was brought up in the Japanese culture, which was if someone had a problem with you, you just beat the crap out of each other, shake hands, and walk away. American wrestling, it was more psychological warfare. Very, very damaging mentally. That's, this is where mental illness was born. It's in this culture. It wasn't born in that culture over there. So, and that lingers with you. Mental illness, depression, you break my arm, I heal in 6 weeks. And I said, okay, I won't make the mistake. But the mental abuse that they put on you, that
stays
that
with
has
you.
repercussions for years and years. It does damage. And but I believe in God is great. What goes around comes around. I'm in an amazing place right now, but I dealt with mental illness and depression and psychiatric help for years after I was damaged, and they thought they'd left me for good. But I had God on my side.
You did. And we're going to get to that because I'm sure people are waiting for it to be like, it sounds all amazing right now, but the story does twist. So once you're signed, once they make the big announcement, what were the early days like when you're actually out there? Were you welcomed? Were you making friends? Were you like, this is the life? Like, was it basically the dream that he was presenting?
I was sitting at home making a lot of money. I wasn't working.
Right away, you weren't working? Because I've seen your matches.
Yeah, I know, but that wasn't right away because you have to understand. Remember, it was a TV deal. So once Vince got the TV deal, I had to say a few lines in Punjabi and Hindi. They played it to the board of directors in Hong Kong. He got his contract renewed. Vince's job was done. So I was brought in through not the traditional route. Normally is you have the agents that are there. They're going in the farm systems. They recruit the guy, and then you're part of their stable. And then they're pushing, they're soliciting to Vince and to the writers. Hey, my guy, my guy, my guy. So Vince brought me in. So I didn't have a guy to solicit. And because Vince brought me in, it really rubbed some of the executive people that were in the power the wrong way. Kind of snubbed them. I never snubbed them, but the system snubbed them. And there were also people in power at the time that were kind of jobbers for my dad in Australia, in Japan. So they didn't look very favorably on my dad, right? So I had that baggage to deal with. So I remember I was just brought in for TVs, and that's not a good thing because the guys that are out there on the road for 200, 300 days of the year, now you're getting snubbed by them, right? And I was always taught, you know, wearing a suit and dressed professional. They're wearing like ripped track pants and T-shirts. So now I'm snubbing them that way as well because now I'm looked at as I'm too good for them and I'm an executive. But I was requested by Vince, whatever attire you wear in Japan, wear it. The funny thing is now they're all legislated to wear their suits and ties because now it's a publicly traded company and you got to look professional. How funny is that? So I was looked upon very negatively on that. So I had everything going against me. So at the end of the day, it's not about making money, right? So I remember I'm just sitting at home collecting checks, and my mom came up to me and she goes, "Why aren't you like?" And I said, "Mom, like they're not booking me to be a wrestler, because the guys that are booking are against me or against my dad on how we came into the system." She goes, "Well, this is not setting a good precedent for you, right? Like you're making all this money, but you're not working. So you need to find a way." God bless my mom. I don't know how many people would push you to go out there, but she set me on the right course. She goes, "One way or the other, you got to get on there. And if that door's closed, figure out another way." So I said, okay, there's two basically departments. There's one that are kind of run by the old henchmen of wrestling, booking the talent and doing their stable and favors and pushing the guys. And then there's the writing, which was new, which was more, they were implementing kind of reality into the WWF at the time, but they really didn't capitalize on it. So I was sitting there one day and I was just watching television and I was watching Jerry Springer. It was very popular. I wasn't really into the content, but I was really fascinated by the fact that on a shoestring of a budget, he was whooping Oprah Winfrey's show in the ratings. So, and the other thing is he was making the audience kind of the performers. So he wasn't paying anybody and people just love it. It's like a train wreck, right? A car wreck. So I go, okay, you know what if I there was $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, 10 years before me, and it was all pre-scripted. How many times, kid, can you bounce a basketball? Okay, you know what? On the 9th one, I'm going to kick it away. People are going to get upset. It was all scripted. And at the same time, I'm a proud Canadian, so they wanted me to be kind of, the baby face, the good guy in Canada. They tried to align me with Bret Hart. And, we had a big market overseas with our Asian culture, not only Indians, Asia. But because of the color of my skin, I was loathed in the U.S. Anything typically non-American, which is white, long hair, cowboy boots, Harley Davidson bike, the typical was foreign, and they just boo you. So Vince goes, you know, what can we try to do? So I came up with this idea. I said, what if I do something, how low will an American go? And I shoot with it. And I basically say, you know, the Asian culture reveres their parents, respects, you know, morals, has integrity, will never sell themselves. And Americans, you'll sell yourself for $1. And I said, it's not scripted. It's going to be real. And we won't have a plant in the audience, which is, you know, someone that they have already set. I'll just pick somebody and let's just roll with it, because the audience was a lot more intelligent at the time as well. So there were a lot of dirt sheets, internet was starting to come, so people are talking, right? And so he says, okay, let's give it a go. So I showed up, he goes, and I never did a promo in my life. And I remember it was in Anaheim Pond, 20,000 people. And he goes, let's go out there. So they gave me a script, and it was like 5 pages, and I can't memorize anything. So Vince came over, he goes, did you memorize it? I spent like 2 hours. I said, Vince, I'm nervous. He goes, give it to me. He ripped it, threw it away. I was going, Vince. He goes, go and do it. So I went and did it, and the rest, as they say, is history. It was the highest rated segment. They would have Nielsen ratings the day after, which would break it down quarterly over the 2-hour show, and they would show the peaks, and it was on USA Cable, and I had the highest rating.
Oh, crazy.
And Steve Austin was the champion, was number 2. I think Undertaker DX was number 3. The Rock was number 4. So then they compared it going head to head against all the other things. So I even did higher ratings than Seinfeld. I did higher ratings than all of that. So that was the first inclusion of reality television, and so I basically, all the guys that were, you know, the powers to be in wrestling, then they became my best friends, because now I was a ratings generator. Oh, talk to me, you know, and anyways, so that was, how does they say, that was the thing that brought me to the forefront. That's where the name got recognized. I was blessed by Muhammad Ali then with the Tiger Ali Singh. And yeah, it was going really, really good.
What is it like when you're actually trying to get into this character? Because like when I was watching some of your footage, I was like, I couldn't help but laugh, because I'm like, he is nothing like this person that I'm seeing there, right? And you're out there and you're just super anti-American, and you're telling everyone they're beneath you, and you're making people, like I said, eat worms. I saw that one where I was like, buddy, really? And I was just like, it wasn't you.
Right.
But I was like, wow, like for him to be able to really get into that character and get on the mic, to be able to talk to the audience, to really pump it up, to get people to like riled up, that's a separate talent, and you were able to do that. So was that just a natural ability, or were you like practicing? Were you doing something backstage to really kind of be a complete package?
That's another great question.
Because you're not mean, so you got to be mean. You got to make people hate you. That's not easy.
You definitely.
Or did you enjoy it?
No, I don't enjoy it. But I think it's just you role playing. You got to get in a character. And for me, the Tiger Ali Singh was never me personally. Unlike, I don't want to say a majority, but I think if you just follow the news or whatever, you can see where people get enveloped in their character. And it's not only in wrestling, even Hollywood. And then the way they try to escape it is by like popping pills or doing drugs. Or so for me, my escape was always, you know, my family, coming home, living in the little community that we do, which they'll tell you right to your face, you know, you're not a superstar, which I really love. It keeps you very humble. So I had that, and I was able to separate, no different than, you know, like the way you are now, right? You're very loud, but I know you personally, you're very humble and quiet, but it's that persona that you got to bring, right? Like me talking like this and monotone, this is not going to sell tickets, but this is who I am. This is Gurjit Singh Hans, right? But if you got it's just a snap, and boom, you just transform into the character. So it took a little while, but now I can go into it just like changing my jacket.
I
It's
know.
not a big
I remember
deal.
Tiger Fest, where then I got to see you guys in action too, and that's why for me it's always fascinating to see both you and your father. When I see the real life version, and then I see you in action, and
Yeah.
then to me it's like I kind of got scared, right? I'm like, oh, they're so mean, but that's why I've developed a huge amount of respect for. The wrestling game to be, I'm like, not only do you have to be talented, but you have to be out there and really package yourself, right? And they could give you a script, but it's on you to be able to convince people that that's you and to evoke that emotion. I always heard that you want to be the person, the villain.
It kind of my character kind of morphed that way. It wasn't my choosing. I wanted to come and be the good guy.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to be liked. I don't want people spitting on me. I live in this beautiful country. I don't want to be Flip the Bird or road rage. But the character, it would just morph that way, right? So, and the funny thing is, and I think this is why my dad is heads above anyone in the industry, including the Andre Giants and the Hulk Hogans, why he was voted. It wasn't just a character for him in the ring. It was when he went to Japan and he landed at Narita Airport. I seen the transformation happen. He was 24/7, the character, like walking in the streets, landing in the airport, going in the hotels, and I think that's where the people really revered him. Like they really believed it. Where nowadays it's like, cut. Okay, boom. Hey, buddy, I'll sign the autograph. Meanwhile, in character, you just threw a garbage can at him. Right? So, but it's a lot of how they call here shits and giggles now. It's nothing like what I grew up on. Nothing like what my dad did. Kudos to them. You have to evolve, like any other industry. You have to evolve with the times, and it's a young man's game now. Young man's in the sense. Unattached, not really for family-orientated people, because you're spending most of the time. So it's a sacrifice you got to do. A lot of people do it, but for myself, I had a divine intervention that kind of set me back on the course and said, "You're a family guy. You're a homebody guy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, then let's get to that part. So you're wrestling, and then December 2001, everything changes. Tell us about it.
That was when I sustained my third concussion in 9 months. I was sent to Puerto Rico to kind of heal, and but also I was regulated back into the wrestling, right? So it wasn't how low will American go. You can only run with that for so long. I did it for a year, but now they want to see the guy who's belittling Americans. Now the Americans want to see him get his ass whooped in the wrestling ring. So now I'm back with the henchmen, right? And they're kind of very demoralizing. It was a very negative background, negative in the backstage area. I would kind of hold myself. So then they sent me to Puerto Rico. And I was sent to Puerto Rico. Beautiful country, beautiful people. But, kind of destitute. They're not bringing in the big dollars and all that. So I was kind of forced. I was given an ultimatum. It was during monsoon season. Monsoon was on the horizon. It was coming in. It was just like if you've never been in the tropics or that part of the world, it's like a black wall. That's all I seen, a black wall, and it was coming in. And it was in a baseball stadium. Even the people were dispersing, and the rain started, and I was the main event. And so I went back in my dressing room. I started changing my gear, going back in my street clothes, and the promoter came. And he goes, "Tiger, I need you to go out." I go out where? The people have left. The ring is drenched, and it's actually, you can see like a puddle forming in the middle of the ring. Mud is all over. He goes, no. This was a paid show, and we try to make it up 3 times because they were always rained out. And the third time, now we owe the money back to the sponsor. But we spent that even before the first show, right? So we were in debt to begin with. So if you don't go out there, we owe money. And I said, "Well, I'm really sorry for you, but it's not even safe conditions."
Exactly.
And he goes, "You don't want me to make a call, right?" Because WWE had creative control.
Wow, make a call.
So
Jeez.
basically an ultimatum that will fire you. But now I'm providing for my family. So I said, begrudgingly, I said, okay. So then I put my stuff back on. I went out there, not even 5 minutes or something. And I think I slipped. I hit my head on the back of the ring apron, which is exposed. It's all steel. beams, and I really don't remember too much of it. I just remember being revived in a puddle of water. There was another fellow Canadian wrestler there at the time. Obviously, I was vomiting, and they took me to the backstage, and it was like it was planned. All of a sudden, normally guys would linger, everyone would hang out, you shower, you shoot the breeze, and everyone disperse, get in the cars together, and move back off to the hometown. It was empty. It was nobody was there. Like all the wrestlers were gone, referees were gone. I was the only one left in the dressing room, and I was disorientated. And I remember right then and there the story my dad told me, and it's infamous now. You can do a Google. They used to have a very world famous wrestler, Bruiser Brody, and he was slain to death in Puerto Rico for going against the promoter. They basically cut his gut open, his neck open. Nobody was ever charged. Everyone was on the take. So I was in fear. I was in fear in the sense right away that I don't want to die here, right? I dealt with concussions in the past. I know there was hemorrhaging. I'm vomiting now. So I felt like I got to get out of the country. And my departure was actually going back for Christmas holidays the next day. And I said, I can't wait. Like, I don't want to sleep. So I did everything to keep myself awake. And somehow I flagged down a taxi. I knew a little bit of Spanish at the time, basically, airporto or whatever. I said,
so you're there injured, and no one's even there to make sure you're off to get medical or to the hotel or anywhere.
No,
you're completely by yourself.
It was vacated. It was intentionally done. Just leave me on my own. And I believe to this day just to, either die, right? And but because it's happened in the past. So I flagged down a taxi. I had on my paper where I was staying. I told the taxi to wait. I basically went in my apartment to grab my passport. I left all my belongings. I left the belt. I left everything. I just changed my shorts, tried to clean my face because I had blood on my face, and I went straight to the airport. And so I had a first-class ticket so they could just transfer it, and I got my flight out. Supposedly, I passed out on the flight in to Toronto. I had made a call to a dear friend of mine to pick me up. I didn't alarm my family or anything. They revived me in Toronto, and my friend in Toronto picked me up and took me right to my neurosurgeon who was treating me before in Buffalo. And he immediately did MRIs and everything, and he came back. He goes, I don't know how you survived the plane ride. He goes, there's like, it should have burst. You should have been hemorrhaging right now. So he goes, I have no medical reason how you're alive. And I said, well, God didn't think it's my time, obviously. So it was a rough ride, and I just tried to heal. And then I think 3 months later, WWE sent me my termination, right? That you can't wrestle, so you're terminated. And
but actually, once you're in Toronto, though, so already I'm sure people are listening to this being like, figuring out the time, right? They're like, oh my gosh, so much time has passed since you've had the initial injury now. You've now made your way to Toronto. You're in Buffalo now, actually.
The same night.
And
same night.
Where is everybody else, the authorities? Because I'm sure they know you've been injured, right? So was there a phone call at all?
I don't know if Puerto Rico informed them. I don't know. They have the WWE guy there, which I believe. But I think they try to keep it hush-hush. And I didn't even let the Puerto Rican authorities know that I left. Because I was in fear, remember.
Yes,
there was a backstory, and I was fear that if they ever thought I was trying to leave, maybe they would hold me back, right? Admit me at a local hospital, and God forbid, I don't know what would have happened. But I needed to get out of the country. So that same night, I flew out of the country. And I arrived the next morning. It was a red eye, so I arrived the next early morning. So this all happened within 24 hours. I was getting treated in Buffalo, the neurosurgeon, all within 24 hours.
So as you're now recovering, when did everybody find out what had happened to you?
I think it was a few days later. They reached out to me and they said, "Oh, sorry to hear it. Recover,
That's
and
it?
get back to us." Yep, that was it. And
is that standard? I don't know what they do with people that get injured.
Absolutely not. When you're at the peak, there is no 90 days turnaround. They give you infinite amount of time to recover because you're promoted. But when you're in the valley, at that time I was in the valley, I wasn't being promoted and all of that, and they're just looking to terminate you. I had a high contract. They had bought out WCW at the time. They had no plans for me. So all the promises and all that.
So you were no
out the
longer of
window.
use, basically.
I was no longer of use. I was disposable, just like a commodity, discarded, right? And there's lots of wrestlers that have said that before, Bret Hart and all of that kind of stuff.
And did you see that coming, or what was the reaction like? Because that's gotta hurt to be like, you brought me up to such a high level, and now you're just like, see ya?
If I had seen that coming, I would have gone back, right, within my 90 days and try to work. But I was legitimately hurt. I couldn't go back. The neurosurgeon didn't give me his approval to go back. That's what they wanted, his written approval that he's released to go back. So he said, I can't give it to you. So I let them know, and within a few hours, the lawyer called and said, okay, we're terminating your contract. So on my part, I believe it was premeditated on their part. I have no ill will now. Like, I don't waste any time, thought, or energy on that. That was just a stage in my life. I think I was 30 at the time, or 31, just at the peak. And then boom, that was it. And then
life as you know it is completely different.
Well, life as you know is completely different because, but thankfully to my parents and my mom and my family, unbelievable support, and they managed all my finances, so I didn't have to worry about there. But as I'm not saying this as a male chauvinist, but in my perspective, I'm the man, I'm the bread earner of my family. I'm not earning a living, so that's mental anguish already on a depleted sort of physical capacity. So yeah, I had to deal with a lot of stuff.
And how was the recovery then? So how long of a period are we talking?
Very demoralizing. It was a long, drawn out. The first 5 years were really harsh. I lost about 70 pounds of muscle mass.
Wow.
So then there's another sort of depression because your image, your physique is your brand, is your likeness. So I dealt with that. Had severe post-concussion syndrome symptoms, which are like chronic headaches, anxiety, stress, fatigue. I couldn't multitask, couldn't take bright lights. These aren't prescription. These are just a side effect of, I used to wear glasses all the time because I couldn't take light, couldn't take noise. So basically I cut myself off from the world. I couldn't go to functions. I kind of became like a part-time dad. My brothers kind of stood in for me, took the kids out to soccer and stuff because I couldn't be in around that kind of thing. It was really hard on my parents, my wife. This is not going to turn into a Barbara Walters episode. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Going to say strong.
But I think everyone can put themselves in your shoes and
Anyone
be like,
can.
not only is the career, but then also it's like all aspects of your life is now completely changed.
It's all finished.
Yeah.
It's all finished. So, so I couldn't drive for about a year. Couldn't sleep. I was sleeping only 2 or 3. Had huge insomnia issues.
Of course.
So basically regulated sleeping during the day because the brain was trying to heal, so it would just sleep on you.
And was this for about you were
5
seeing 5
years,
years, so
yeah.
5 years until you got to a point where you started to kind of get your quality of life back?
Yeah, I could train a little bit more. I was eating my diet was coming back. I was outgoing a little bit more with the kids. Start coaching their stuff. But baby steps.
While you're recovering, though, what helped you get through it? Did you kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel to get, okay, I'm just going to put in my hard work. I'm going to get my life back?
Hell no. Light, I didn't even know I was in a tunnel. So forget about the light at the end of a tunnel. I thought, I couldn't think. There was nothing. The easiest way, and now I can see it with people dealing with a lot of mental health and depression and stuff, why they take their life. So I think it was like 1 failed attempt or 2. I was under hypnosis, so the psychiatrist found that out. But
You actually did try to take your own life.
not knowingly, but they told me. They told me that. Like that was how.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was, well, now you do. Like,
Yeah.
You wanted to know the real deal, so this is
Of
the
course.
real deal, right?
But that's why I'm just like, my heart goes out to you to be like, I can't even try to put myself in your shoes.
But it had to be done. I had to, because I was so far on the other side. I was at a crossroads, and if this divine intervention, which I believe wholeheartedly, it was a divine intervention, tough love. And for me, it unlike maybe majority of the population, I need a little bit tougher love to get me on the right track. And this is what it was. I needed it. I'm totally wholeheartedly appreciative of it. I am where I am in my life because of it. What a lot of people go, if you could change, I would not change anything. You
would still go through the entire situation again to get to where you are today.
100%.
I get that.
I just wish, God would let me know, what was happening.
Yeah, I'd be like, what's your game plan? It's all going to work out right. Don't we all?
Then I'll play it. I'll go out with it the whole ride. But just give me an idea that, but that's where your faith comes in. So for me, it was all about my faith. My spirituality started kicking in more. My love and support from my wife, my kids, my parents, my brothers, my sister-in-laws. That was my thing. All the entourage disappeared. My circle, compared to what it was then, is like I can count it on my fingers now of the people that are in my life now. At that time, it was a party all the time. Everyone's around. Everyone wants free gifts.
Of course.
Free trips. So I needed that intervention because, I like to be liked. I like, I don't want to make people upset. And in those days, I used to find out, so-and-so is upset, and it would kill me. I would want to find out. I would do a due diligence why they get upset. Now my theory is it's okay to be an asshole if it's the right way to do it. You don't have to try to make everyone happy. You got to make yourself happy first and the loved ones around you happy. So I'm no longer on the kick to be liked by everybody. If you don't like me because I'm doing a certain thing a certain way, but it's the right way, then that's okay. I have no problem with that.
So not only did you get your quality of life back, you're back with your family, you're starting to be an active member again, but now, like we were talking about, you're in the best place in your life right now. And I know you have you're not just a family guy, you've really tried to find your purpose again. I think you really have. So let's talk about finding your purpose again. So when did you kind of decide, okay, I'm healthier now, I'm loving the family life, but there's more that I've got to achieve?
It was God speaking, and people always ask, God, give me a sign, talk to me, and all of this kind of stuff. God, or your supreme being, or whatever how you want to categorize, is always talking and always speaking. We just have to be open to read the signs. It's not going to come right in front of you and say, okay, Amin, this is what it is. No, there's signs all the time. So for me, one of the biggest signs were when my dad and I were inducted into the Walk of Fame. And so we show up at this Walk of Fame, and it's like a large media scrum there in the town, right? And the mayor gets up and he goes, I know what this media is all here for. It's for the Tigers. So we give a speech. We're very appreciative, very humble, and all this kind of stuff. And shortly after that, a good friend of mine it's a cheap plug, but it's heartfelt. His name is Troy. He owns Troy's Diner in Milton.
We love him. He's great.
He's a great guy, jolly guy. And he comes up to me. And we had just gone to know each other a little bit because now I was a homebody. And he's a huge wrestling fan. And he goes, hey, Tiger. I go, what? He goes, now that you've kind of come out from the shadows because of this, he goes, what do you think, about putting on a toy drive together, right? And I said, I don't know, man. But I'm open to listen to what you have to do. Because you have to understand, 10 years, 5 years at that time, I was totally cut off, right? No interviews, the whole mess. I had nothing to do with it. And so I listened to him. He goes, well, me and my staff, want to collect some toys. And so for me, in Tigerville, how I affectionately refer to it, it's always go big or go home. So I listened to him. It was a wonderful idea. But I knew in the back of my mind, I had a different vision for it. And the vision is, God willing, what you see today. There's a method to my madness. Anything and everything I do, I already have a vision for it.
Amazing.
I already know where it's going to go.
And then you know how to execute it then.
I know how to
make
execute
it happen.
it.
So actually, let's talk about that. So the toy drive, that's what started off, or did you already have the idea to have the foundation?
I didn't have the idea for the foundation. I had an idea that because remember, 5 years I'm out of work, I'm out of life. I've had this big machine that's always been behind me, taking everything for granted. That everything just happens because it happens. But there's a machine. WWE was behind me. I no longer have the machine, right? So I'm like, oh my God, how are we going to do this, right? So we got to organize it. But I still didn't think about the foundation. So my nephew was diagnosed with leukemia at the time. He was at Sick Kids. God willing, he's all happy and healthy right now. And so I remember at that time I had like an epiphany or a calling or something. And I said, God, just bless me with a second chance. I want to do something for these kids, you know?
Yeah.
And
Actually, we do have some footage of you visiting the hospitals, and I know I saw on the website, moms will write into you, say like, you know, you visited my son, and you know, you just made this whole visit, because I mean, the reason why it's hard to go to a hospital, especially to visit kids, because you see these little ones and they're having to be so strong, and you know, you just, especially at Christmas, because I know Miracle on Main Street is around that time, you're just like, we want you to be home with your family, have a normal childhood, just be focused on getting presents and not be focused on fighting such a huge battle. So I think everyone can relate to, actually, once you're there and you see that, you go, I want to do something. And you actually did make something happen with Miracle on Main Street.
yeah, so Toy Drive was the platform, but the deeper message was inclusion, bringing diversity together. You know, especially now, it's so well received. And I think the reason why it's so well received is because you have the leader down south is so far to one side. You have our leader up here, he's so far to the other. And I think the majority of the people just want to be in the middle. They want to be given respect, but they want respect. They want to treat people with respect. So it's kind of morphed into the thing that, you know, I wear a Santa jacket, I wear a red turban, I wear my belt.
Yeah.
And I'm 285 pounds. I'm a former world heavyweight champion. So I come on the platform of the celebrity. So people are well receiving of that. They're excited. They come in, we can sit and talk. And then I promote Merry Christmas, right? So the reason I promote Merry Christmas, because I go, this is what we grew up with. We never had headaches in the past, where now it seems like it should be neutralized. It should be happy holidays because there's a religious connotation to it. And my whole deal was that, listen, remember why we as immigrants all come to this country is to escape, you know, the atrocities and all of this discrimination, et cetera, the baggage. So don't bring the baggage here. You're coming here all for the same reason. Better opportunities, better life for your children. It's all the same. I've talked to everybody from every culture, and everyone has the same answer. So I said, if you think that all the retailers are only promoting Merry Christmas and the holidays to the people that practice it religiously, you're fooling yourselves. Everybody, religiously or non-religiously, they go in for those retail deals, right? So I said, this is an opportunity as Canadians to celebrate a religious holiday, even non-religiously, as a festive holiday, and respect those that do celebrate it as a religion. And so I promote it as Merry Christmas. And I say also, the only time Tiger will refer to it as Happy Holidays is when all the other religious holidays throughout the years are kind of referred to as Happy Holidays. So no more Happy Vaisakhi, no more Happy Hanukkah, no more Happy Diwali, none of that.
You're very right. That's a good point. I never really thought of it that way.
Well,
Every other one gets like their specific name.
so why are you like sticking it to maybe one of the larger ones that were here first, right? So I don't have to be in Canada for 100 years or 150 years. I'm born in Canada. I'm the first generation for our family. And when my mom came to this country, she didn't turn her back on our cultures and habits of the past, but she kind of brought in more. She said, hey, listen, let's celebrate Christmas. So we would have a Christmas tree. We would hang the stockings up by the chimney, right? We would set up the little carrots and cookies for Rudolph and Santa. It was embracing the holidays, right? So she's a pinnacle. I think she is actually the catalyst to our foundation. She set these things in our mind at that time. During Easter, we would celebrate. We would go on the Easter hunt. Thanksgiving, we would have a turkey. Canada Day, all these kinds of stuff. So I always go back when they ever tell me, Tiger, how'd you have this idea? And I said, it was my mom. You know, she didn't realize it at the time by enriching our lives the way she does. She just thought, hey, listen, this is Canadiana. I just want my kids to be able to enjoy it. Halloween, we used to have the biggest and best decorations for Halloween.
Oh, yeah?
We used to dress up all the time. So then I remember when we were teenagers, then it dawned on me why all our cousins used to come over during the holidays. It's because they never used to celebrate it the way we used to. So I never, it's funny now that you look at it, but also sad, right? So I kind of, you know, we're in the schools and we go all over the place. We're invited, obviously, Miracle in Maine. It's not like I pitch a tent and I force my way in. But we go in and we talk to all the students and all of that. And, you know, we kind of pick out a few kids. So there could be a Hindu family. And I go, why are you the reason your child is being ridiculed during Christmas? No, sir, we have decorations. I go, a stocking on your outside door with no lights and no decorations inside. That's setting your kid up to be ridiculed. Remove the stocking or go all in, right? But don't go like...
Everyone has to go big or go home.
You gotta do something, or put up a few lights, or put up a little statue.
Next thing you know, their house is like, you can see it from space. It's just well lit.
Yeah. So, you know, it's an education. Yeah. So they're more receptive taking it from, you know, once again, the Tiger character than, let's suppose, say, a layman guy. So we use that platform, and it's been very well received.
Everyone comes out and media comes out. Like, everyone comes together to support it.
It goes back to what my vision was on How Low Will American Go. Let the participants be the stars. Yeah. Let them be the actors. I'll be the Jerry Springer and set it up, but then it's all for you, right? It's how you want to make it. So Miracle on Main Street is mainly for the children. Adults are welcome, but I'm not really playing too much to the adults. I just want the children to come in, being on any race or religion or culture, to come in and celebrate the holidays at a neutral level, the way I was raised. So unlike what we did, I do a little bit different now. I bring in a 60-foot high Ferris wheel. I bring in, you know, horse carriage drawn rides. I bring in like little miniature trains. So all the food and all the breakfast, everything's for free. There's lots of pony rides. There's all the stuff. I wanted to make this kind of make-believe land, you know? And the kids then, they learn about community service, because the entry is, it's free, but the entry is a donation of a new unwrapped toy, which then we all package and we take then to the kids that are critically ill at Sick Kids or McMaster Children's Hospital, Salvation Army, Heart Women's Place. And there's unbelievable images that are captured that you'll see Muslim children with Christians, or with Jewish children, and with Sikhs, or with Hindus, and they're all just children. People say it all the time. I say it too. I said, you know, before trying to be, you know, a great Sikh or a great Hindu or a great Muslim or a great Christian, try to be a great human being first and foremost, right? And that's what the event is all about. So when people get into it, they go, this is more than a toy drive, isn't it? And I go, yes, it is.
It's always more.
It's always more. It's always more.
Yeah. And do we have an idea? Do we have stats? How many toys, how many kids have benefited from this?
To this date, I can tell you close to $3 million has been raised in combination of sponsorships and donations. We're a private charity, so we've never sought out any grants or funding from governments. Everything has been pure sponsorship. We've been very blessed by having some, if I could, drop some names.
Of course.
They're not even from Milton. So I don't even, we don't solicit the event. We don't market. We don't spend any money on marketing.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't spend any money on soliciting sponsors or whatever, but Accenture from downtown Toronto comes. Deloitte, they come in from Toronto. KPMG gets approval from the United States. They come in.
Oh, wow.
CN, they're a big player. Scotiabank. It goes on.
All the major players.
All the major players come. Breakfast Television has been a wonderful supporter of ours. They carry our event live, which is what I was told is their highest rated segment out of the entire year. But once again, it's a very simple formula. We're just promoting what everyone wants, right? So there's no magic. There's no mystique. It's a very simple ideology behind it. And I guess we're the only ones that are doing it. So the venue is in Milton, with the support of our wonderful mayor and our town council. It's the only non-government event that they shut down Main Street for
They
in the
do.
middle of rush hour, in the middle of December. And then the whole Main Street is covered with, ponies or reindeer, even horses. So it's like
You transform the entire place.
we transform
It's
it
like
for
it's
the
like
3
a
hours.
wonderland for Christmas.
And then it's gone.
Yeah.
So it's not like, we bring in these amusement rides and it's there for 3 days like a fall fair or something. No, they're literally erected the night before. The gates are open at, let's say, 6 or 7 a.m. And then by 10 a.m., everything's disappeared,
Yeah.
pulled away.
I always say like nothing's better than a kid's laughter, so I love being in homes or places
Yes,
with kids
of
because
course.
there's just pure joy.
Yep.
And you can't help but, even if you're having a bad day, you suddenly go, you know what, look how happy these kids are.
Absolutely.
Maybe we need to let go of all the baggage and negativity that we bring every day and go, at the end of the day, let's just have fun. Let's play in the snow and let's do some good. And
Yep.
that's what this event really
It's
brings
all about.
together. So it's one of my favorite events. And
Thank
that's
you.
why when I look at you and your story and I go, wow, you had to go through so much. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like this is what you're meant to do, to bring joy and to help people and give back. Is
No,
that
I
what you feel like
appreciate
too?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm on the right course now. And with every passing day, it's just growing. My businesses are growing, and then the network of the businesses are growing, and then they come in and support the events. The events are getting larger. They want Miracle on Main Street all across Canada and all the other big municipalities because they love the whole promotion, the idea of the inclusion. They can't think of a better sort of mascot, the tiger character,
Yeah.
to promote that message, which is so well received by, like I said, all demographics. But there's only so much we can do, right? So I have a wonderful team. I have to give props out. Obviously, my family and my unbelievable group of volunteers, 2 of which are here as well, part of my staff. I call it my family. I don't like referring to staff as staff. But my executive assistants and my trainer and my protector, whenever we go to events, they're all here as well. And I couldn't do it without the fabulous team of people that I have. One person can only do so much. So I'm kind of the visionary. I kind of, conceptualize it. That's my creative nature. I love that. But I need an unbelievable team that can kind of implement it and put it out.
Absolutely.
And then so I can move on to the next thing.
Of course, because you do have a lot that you're doing. I know you have your successful businesses too. So that's why, when you look at you right now, it's like you're doing so well. You're finding balance. I know you're very still much a family man. So I know go to so many other community events too. So it's not just your own. I know you go and lend your support too. So I think you found it. I think you found that balance and
I think
the happiness that everybody seeks.
Definitely happiness, and happiness is earned or obtained by giving it. So the first thing I when someone tells me, "Oh my God, this is crazy," but I said it's really easy. It really is. The more charity you do, the more actually you receive. The more you do. It really is. And I know everyone's got to pay bills in that, but that's why you got to live within your means first, right? I think society right now, we're all living beyond our means. Everything's on credit. So that's creating stress. So long as you live within your means, you'll have lots to give. And if you don't have the means to do it or the platform, then you can lend on the Tiger shoulders. We got some big shoulders. And a lot of people, a lot of charities then come and leverage what we have, and we help promote them as well.
So let's say in 10 years, where would you like to see life for yourself? What are the big goals? Is there anything on your bucket list that you're still hoping to achieve?
There's lots that I want to achieve.
Let's hear some of it.
But the ultimate thing, how I have peace, is I'm constantly evolving. I'm constantly visualizing on what I want to do, setting targets out there. But at the end of the day, what gives me peace is coming with full acceptance of karma. So if by chance I set something that I want to reach or do, and it doesn't happen, there's no sorrow, there's no self-pity. I go, it wasn't in my karma. And it's simple as that. And I just move on. So my businesses, definitely, I see it over the next year evolving. there's a business that possibly might be going public next year as well. So I'm really excited, and but once again, I don't set any targets. I just throw out. I want it to evolve. I want it to grow, and I let karma then take it.
Do you believe in the power of the universe? Do you believe if you put it out there and say, I want X to happen?
You just talk. I don't even have to look. You'll probably see big smiles on the people that came with me today.
Here, let's take a look.
I'm 100% into the universe. I speak to it all the time. Even at night, I'm speaking to the universe. I'm sending messages out all the time, and I am getting responses all the time.
I truly believe that.
100%. And it's been as quick as 10 minutes. I'll get a response where somebody will say, oh, that's a coincidence. Oh, that just happened by chance. But that is the defining moment. That's when you got to accept it as the universe speaking back to you. Because a lot of people, oh my God, I don't know how you do this. It's no different than, we're so receptive and understanding to the physical world, and we're so detached from the spiritual world. It's not that much different. So the physical world, people go, oh my God, how do you get 23-inch biceps? How do you get like a 54-inch chest? But it's been working at it. It's just not out of a Cracker Jack box, right? Like you got to work and you got to develop it. The same thing with the spiritual world. You got to work on it. You got to develop it. Where you lose a majority of the people, it's that there's nothing visual, right? You can't see it. You can't see it grow. You can't see it develop. But you got to feel it, right? So I'm not going to get this in a really deep conversation, but I talk to a lot of people, spiritual leaders and all that, and they go, it's God, same thing. So they go, well, if science, if you can't touch it, smell it, see it, it doesn't exist, right? So that means, I guess, they don't think God exists, right? But it's a feeling, it's a connection, right? So same thing. You got to just develop it, you got to feel it, and 150%. The universe exists, and the universe does speak back to you, but you got to have full acceptance on everything is regulated through your karma. I'm a total believer in that. So people that don't believe in karma, what's karma and all of that, karma's it's developed through your habits, through your traits, on how you govern your life. Then that sets off energy, right? So karma is instant reaction to your reaction, right? So, once again, I'm nobody to judge on, good or bad people. I can only judge myself, and I can only control myself. So a lot of people, they create stress, or they say, oh my God, I can't believe you did this or that. Don't allow people or situations or things to influence your being and your state of mind. You're empowering then all this third party, right? So empower yourself with the notion and with the understanding that, no, I will be able to feel how I want to feel. I will be able to dictate how I want to run my life. Nobody or anything has the power over you. And I think that was a big defining moment in my life, that when I came to that conclusion, I found a lot of peace. A lot of peace. And then I seen things just start growing.
Yeah.
If you don't have the inner peace, how are all these things going to manifest around you, right?
Absolutely. And I think you said early in this interview that you sometimes have to look for the opportunity. So the door that you thought or you wanted so badly to be open and to walk through, it might shut, and you might be tugging and it just won't open. The universe is opening other doors. You just got to turn around and see them.
100%. I don't think there's not one day that goes by that I'm not appreciative and grateful to Vince McMahon and the WWE for giving me the opportunity. It taught me how to be a showman. It taught me how to do promos. It gave me a brand.
I was going to say, it gave you this platform.
It gave you the platform. But I've been out of sight, out of mind for almost 15 years. So what's carried it? It's not the WWE. You're not seeing me on cereal boxes or whatever. But it's through all of this other karma and the universe and the energy and businesses and doing the charity work. This now, which is where we are now, my father and myself, there are people that remember about the wrestling. but there are a lot that don't. And we're known more for now for our humanitarian and philanthropy and the charity, which me personally is more real. It's more substance. Now you're creating a legacy. So going back to when I was 18 or 19, saying that, you know, if God would bless me the opportunity to carry on this man's legacy, now that's happening. So now, you know, he has a school named after him. The only school in the world named after a pro wrestler. The first school in North America named after a person of South Asian descent.
Yeah.
We have our own charity in our foundation. Both father and son were inducted into multiple walks of fame. We were given the Diamond Jubilee, only father and son. So, you know, it goes on and on. But what I'm saying is that is creating a legacy. There are a lot of people that are entertainers or wrestlers or engineers or doctors, but that's a job, or an astronaut. That's a job. That's not creating a legacy, right?
I get what
That's
you're
a job. That's paying the bills. But what really creates a legacy, what I now have seen, is helping humanity, doing more charity. And that's, if you remember, I was 18, 19. That's what I wanted. So
And you got it.
the universe gave it,
Yeah.
right? So I did what I needed to do when I was 30, 31. I needed to go through this because now when I go to hospitals and that, they ask me to talk to children that are on the death watch, teenagers that are dealing with suicide or dealing with depression. So I never went to school for that, but because I had my own personal experience in demons, I can relate to them, and it's doing tremendous work for them and helping them, which gives me unbelievable gratification. So I needed to go through that, right? It's helping this, and then also give me a time to bond with my children, right? So like I coach them in the summer, as you know, a lot of parents do. But how many parents do you know that coach their children full time in their school sports? So early morning 6 a.m. practices, after school practices, and I was coaching their volleyball or their basketball. I was the only parent. Yes, you know, was it my choice? But the universe knew that's where I needed to be. So I bonded with them 10 years. So we talk now when they were like kids, you know, picking them up, always practicing with them. I knew all their kids. I knew all their players. And they send me letters. So that was a huge part of my life. And now it's like I always knew, okay, something even bigger. And it's going back to Vince McMahon. And I always say thank you. So if he's watching, I say thank you. And I'm going to hold him to his words. When he signed me, in his mind, he thought he was referring to a certain thing. But you'll see in the next few years. So he said, Tiger, your contract will be a drop in the bucket. Meaning, you will be the highest grossing person I've ever signed, ever. So now a lot of people go, oh, there's Hulk Hogan, this and that. But more importantly, he was a dear friend of mine, and I'm so happy for his success, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. So he's doing movies now with that. So he's okay, how can you reach those levels? It's never been about materialism to me. It's never been about monetary. But in the next few years, you'll start to see what is going to be transpiring, what's going to start evolving, what's going to happen with the companies, what's going to happen with my relationships and my networks. So I'd always thought, going back to your original question, my only thing now is that if the brand, once again, and I could be naive and the universe will clear it up for me, if the brand could get, I guess, more awareness, then we could do more charity, right? So now, you know, the only machine behind us is us, right? So if I had a larger machine, promotional machine, than the name, so then you start thinking, should I take up an offer? Should I do a Hollywood movie? Just for the sake of giving that brand the injection so we could reach out and help more people. So, but I'm going to let the universe decide. Those are the things that I'm contemplating. I have discussions, and I'll let it kind of evolve by itself, but I don't force it. Never force anything, never hold on to anything, never want anything too much, because it'll be that much difficult to get.
Let me ask you, you mentioned talking to youth that are on suicide watch or are just in a terrible situation. You go and obviously inspire them. Maybe there's somebody watching that is going through a hard time or knows somebody. So maybe we can right now share a few things that you tell them.
First and foremost is recognizing what it is, right?
like the cause of it.
what the cause is, right? So you have unbelievable people that are in your life that love you, that will do anything to take that feeling away,
Yeah.
right? But they don't know. They just mean well. And so don't take that as a negative, because you get to a point, you're like, for God's sake, just shut up, leave me alone, right? But nobody knows. They're just trying to do whatever they can, right? So it's like someone, you just had a loved one pass away in your life. What's the first thing that people do? Oh, I know how you feel. Bullshit. You don't know how I feel. You've never had anyone pass you. So for God's sake, don't try to, I guess, minimalize it or marginalize it or sympathize with it. Just understand I'm dealing with something, accept it. That will give a lot of support. So before even going to the person with the root cause, if the people that are watching have someone that are going through it, understand that, right? So then all of a sudden there's the rebel. Then all of a sudden they're fighting. But understand, because they just don't want you to kind of like sympathize with it. They need you to accept it too. So that's the first and foremost how I had to accept it, what it was, right? And then also understand the people that are around me, they mean well. They're in my life. Look at all the people that have left me. Look at the ones that are still standing there, for God's sake. So they love me. They really do love me. And embrace that. Don't repel that. And the other thing is then to understand, and I know it's hard at that time, but it's happening for a reason. It really is happening for a reason. And it really is temporary. I know it's really difficult because as a Tiger, you went through it for like 3 to 5 years. But on the whole grand scheme of my life, if I end up living to 100, that's a blink of an eye. That's nothing, right? So it is temporary. And try to stay away from the drugs, because that's only masking the problem. It's only a temporary relief from what the problem is, right? And the other thing I would really, really strongly promote out there is spirituality. This meditation, it's done wonders for me, because it gives you that sense of detachment, that release, where the drugs temporarily do it, but this is actually working on your inner spirituality, your inner soul, your inner being. That's what needs to be strengthened. Your inner self needs to be strengthened, because the body and our organs, this is just like a little capsule, like an encasing. But that's not our essence. Our essence is our soul. That's deep inside. That's infinite, right? So I definitely would encourage people to get on that path. And if they don't know about it, they can reach out to our foundation, and then we can give them some links or make it even introductions.
Wonderful.
We can definitely give them introduction to spiritual centers that have helped us, that are non-religious based. You know, any denomination, any religion, any culture can go. That's part of what we're doing as well, and that's given my mom unbelievable strength, unbelievable sense of longing. But just please understand, you're doing more harm to yourself and others around you if you kind of, just go and do, take your life or drugs and all that kind of stuff. Because even in that kind of depths of despair, you really do love your parents. You do really love, and you don't want to bring any harm to them, right? So you need to speak about it. That's very important as well. I kind of kept it to myself because, I would burden. I would always think I'm burdening. I'm there as the rock for everyone else. And I didn't want to let anyone know that I'm suffering. So I don't know who introduced me to it, but whichever way or however I did, I ended up seeing a psychiatrist, non-medicated. But then it was someone I could talk to. That is so essential, because once you start talking, then you start opening. Then everything that's bottled up, you start releasing. And one thing I got to give kudos to is to all my white friends out there, which I didn't know. This is something that's, I think it's a detriment to our South Asian culture, because they're always thinking about family reputation, the pride of our family, the honor of our family. So if you have anything going on, don't tell anybody. We don't want anyone to look bad at us. If we're having marital issues, don't speak outside. It's going to ruin the fabric of our family. If my child has a speech impediment or whatever, don't seek out counseling or whatever, because it's going to look bad. I don't know how else to put it. It's ignorance. I don't think it's stupidity. I think it's ignorance, because I think as a culture, that's the way we were brought up. Family honor, family pride. We don't want to look bad amongst the relatives. You know, that's such a farce, because at the end of the day, you guys are suffering. Nobody else is suffering. You're suffering, right? So my young son, he went through anxiety, and we sought out counseling, and he's doing unbelievable now after 2 years. Can you imagine if I kind of deferred it and I never dealt with it? It's not going away. It's going to get worse. So going back and giving props to my white friends out there, I used to laugh when I used to see it, because they talk about everything. They talk about everything. If they're having marriage issues or whatever, the guys are going to talk to the friends at work.
Yeah.
But it's a sense of counseling. Or the women are going to talk to their best friends.
Yes.
Right? Or the kids are going to go, oh, well, daddy drinks a lot or whatever. But it's a sense of counseling, self-counseling. And I didn't realize it at the time, because you're thinking, oh my God, but then you get older and you go, oh my God, kudos to them.
Yes.
And I think the South Asian culture, I'm not saying now go out and talk to everybody, but I'm trying to say, just like the person that's, dealing with mental issues, find someone that could be your rock. It's a psychiatrist or a spiritual leader or a really good friend even, and kind of cleanse yourself and speak to somebody about it instead of bottling it. A lot of people with mental issues bottle it.
It's great to see someone who's gone through it and been able to get on the other side, because then you can actually see someone that you go, okay, he went through the same thing. Maybe your story's a little bit different, but look what he got to. And I think you're a great example of that. So I'm so glad you're here to share your story.
Well, thank you. I only say it's because of my support. I would be maybe just a statistic if I didn't have my support around me. So all the credit goes to them.
Before I let you go, I'm sure there's some people that are watching that maybe are wrestling fans or are thinking, maybe following your footsteps. So I just wanted to quickly talk about what your thoughts are on this new generation of wrestlers. I see you're laughing already, so this should be good. I know I was telling you, I've started to get into wrestling a little bit because my only connection was through you and your father. Now I see more and more South Asians in the industry. We've got Impact Wrestling, we've got WWE. So let's talk about this new wave. What are your thoughts? Do you think it's a better time now to be a South Asian wrestler?
You got to put it in perspective, right? So I'm not going to trample on anyone's dreams. It's a very temporary job. There's a small window of opportunity. If you are able to get an opportunity you'll enjoy it, but it's very limited. Remember, it's not someone that's family orientated. It's a big hindrance on that. Family unity is a big hindrance. But if that's none of your issues, then I say reach for the stars and go for it. Aspire for greatness and anything, if it's in a medical profession or law or whatever, even like the guy who sweeps the streets, whatever you have passion for, make sure it's all with your passion or you're going to be miserable. But what I would recommend is that get an education first and foremost, because nobody can take that away from you, right? You see a lot of people involved in sports, even outside of wrestling, football, baseball, basketball, hockey. You're a commodity first to the employer. And when you're no longer of any value, you'll be discarded. Some people say, oh, that's very, cynical or negative. No, that's life, right? That goes back to the thing of trying to make people happy. So if this makes some people unhappy, then screw it. I don't really care. But this is real. I've been through it. As long as you understand and realize what it is, you'll be honest with yourself and you'll do better for yourself. So I always recommend get an education. Nobody can take away from you. And then go on it. If you want to spend your 20s or early 30s or whatever and try to live out that dream and you do get an opportunity, great. And if you don't get an opportunity, bang. You're going to be coming back and you'll have a foundation of an education. So all these guys that you mentioned that are Impact Wrestling or in WWE or in Japan, that's awesome. I congratulate them. I think it's just, another evolution. that the WWE and all these things now, they're looking at that South Asian market. It's always been there.
Well, India is a huge market for
It's a huge
everyone.
market,
Yeah.
but it's always been a huge market. But they're only looking at it now because the North American market is dwindling, right? So they're doing more money overseas than they're doing it locally. So their hand is being forced, right? And I say, great, congratulations, and represent the community first and foremost. Remember the South Asian community, we're a little bit different, right? So you got to remember you're representing the community, not just yourself, and carry yourself in a very dignified manner. Because at the end of the day, even if you made it, it's only for a limited time, and you want to have something to fall back on, right? So it's in real estate. That's where my father's background has always been in real estate, investment. So that's one of the businesses that we do as well. Also, I'm an owner, partner in a cybersecurity firm. I'm also an owner in LED lighting manufacturing business. We also have a law firm that my sister-in-law, she's a lawyer. So we're very diversified. So I was never dependent on the wrestling business. So I know what it was. It was to get the name, and now we leverage that name to kind of like open up doors and get us in the forefront, and we network. It's been an unbelievable, great network with politicians and businesses alike, right? But at the end of the day, the integrity of the name is intact, right? Because everything is transparent now. You can Google, you can find out what's happening, this and that. So when people deal business with us, they know it's with someone they can trust, because we're not going to compromise the school, we're not going to compromise the foundation, we're not going to compromise all these accolades that we're getting. So that's where it's been really, really beneficial for us. So I say congratulations to the kids. I say go for your dreams, but get an education.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
by. I always, every time we have our chats, I always learn so much from you, and I love that. That's why I always enjoy our chat. So thank you so much.
No, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to all my fans. I don't really use these forums anymore, like I said, but you're like a family friend, and the whole family respects and loves you very much, and we wish you only the best of luck with this new endeavor.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
This ain't what you want. I might mess around and flex up on your haters.
I know you love my interview. Subscribe for more videos like this. Yeah.
What you want. I might mess around and brag about my savior. At the same time, leave your speakers devastated. This ain't what you want. This ain't what you want. Hustle way too strong, and you know few could ever match your dedication. This ain't what you want. This ain't what you want. Brought me way too far, you know my God illumination.